Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Roblox. It's the kind of new hot IPO. They IPO'd last week on the 10th, or I guess it's a direct listing, not an IPO, but direct listed at 45, popped up to 70 pretty quickly. Market cap around 41 billion, stock ticker RBLX. Real quick, just to show you if you're not familiar, sec.gov, you can go more search options. Come here, type in the ticker symbol and then their prospectus. This is going to be kind of the main document that they file when they direct list it. It's going to have a lot of information on the company. Definitely read through it if you have a chance, but I threw together for you guys today just a quick overview slide, just some quick due diligence and a little analysis on their business here, which is pretty interesting. So like I said, market cap about 40 billion. They're actually founded in 2004 by David Baszucki, who's the CEO. Prior to this, he actually founded another game studio, which he sold in the late 90s, I want to say, or 2000. And then he joined that company for a couple of years, started an angel investment firm in the early 2000s, did that for a couple of years, and then founded Roblox and has been running that for the last 16 years. They have about 32.6 million daily active users, and this has actually significantly increased from last year. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the risk factors later on. But pretty healthy daily active users for this platform and growth definitely. But here we have bookings, revenue, net income. I've laid those out. If you're not familiar with the difference, bookings is as soon as they get paid per se or a contract signed, they record it as a booking. But until they have the ability to recognize the revenue, it can't be recognized as revenue, but they still receive the cash. So a lot of this is like in-game currency purchases for them. So if a user buys $100 of in-game currency, they can't recognize that in revenue until the user actually spends it in their system. So their bookings, you can see, is growing healthy. The revenue is growing healthy, and so is their net loss. But so of that $253 million net loss in 2020, I think 80 million of that was stock comp, and then significant portion of that as well was R&D. So they have been doing things to try to expand and grow. Their SG&A expense doubled as well, so I'm guessing they're hiring more staff. But quickly, if you're not familiar with Roblox, what they are is basically it's a virtual platform, like a virtual world. You create an avatar, you can walk around it. There's a marketplace, you can buy and sell things. If you're a developer, you can actually develop like in-game experiences and games. It's kind of, people call it like a metaverse. Honestly, this was something new to me, not super familiar, and did a little bit of reading on it, but not a ton. But it's basically like the real world shrunk into a virtual world, and then you walk around and interact with things that other people create. The way it works is there's virtual goods that are bought and sold with Robux, which is their virtual currency. Not a cryptocurrency, just like an in-game currency, like any other kind of video game or app store game. Like if you play like Candy Crush and you pay money there to play more, or Pokemon Go and you buy coins to buy stuff, it's that same concept. It's not a cryptocurrency or anything. Um, and any transaction that happens within the marketplace, 30% of it goes back to Robux. So the way it works is developers can create in-game items, things of that nature, experiences and games, and then they can set up a business model where users can pay to use that system or play on it. And then from there, the developer will get 70% of the Robux spent on that, and then Roblox will take 30% of the Robux. And I break down a couple examples of how their margins work because it's a little interesting, I thought. A little bit of a complex business model there. But yeah, so how Roblox makes money, they purchase Robux through there's a monthly subscription, and that comes with like other benefits, but that's to try to get obviously the recurring revenue piece there. The other one is people can make one-time purchases through Apple Store, Google Play, credit card, prepaid cards, PayPal, others. And the thing to note here is 30% of their revenue is generated through the App Store and 19% through Google Play. And why that's significant is Google and Apple actually keep 30% of any money paid through their system, right? So there's a big thing around this with Fortnite. I think recently the developers there challenged Apple and Google, and I think it went to the Supreme Court. I'm not sure if it's still ongoing, but basically saying you're screwing us by taking 30%, and they're saying we provide the users for your game and the infrastructure, so we deserve 30%. So that's something to note, and we'll talk about it. One Robux costs 1 cent on average for the year ending December 31st. And what's interesting is developers, when they receive Robux from other users for users buying their products in the game, their exchange rate is actually a third of that, so 0.0035 cents. Um, couple risk factors to highlight quickly. COVID-19 has actually been incredibly good for this company. Their daily active users has skyrocketed. Their average hours engaged has skyrocketed. So, as we kind of continue due diligence on Roblox, I'm going to make a couple more videos in the coming weeks. Something to keep in mind is like their sales growth isn't going to continue. It's not like the pandemic's going to end. People are going to be off the system. They're not going to be spending as much. You're going to go out and do things in the real world, not sit at home playing computer games. Now the question is, how much is that going to decrease? I don't know, but it is. The other one is Apple App Store and Google Play Store. This is something to think about, right? If they decide to increase their amount of money they keep, or they decide to make restrictions, or whatever, half of the revenue that Roblox makes comes through the App Store. So that's huge. And then the last one is just regulatory challenges. There's been a lot of issues recently with kind of like in-game currency and, a kid takes his mom's phone and spends $1,000, and is the kid really authorized to make that purchase? And then, it has to get refunded and all this stuff. So there could be a lot of regulatory challenges down the line for just kind of these in-game currency purchases. So something to think about. And the last thing I wanted to touch here is just kind of the life cycle of $100 in Roblox. So I think that this part's interesting and kind of critical to understand if you're trying to financially value this company. So the first one here, if you purchase Robux directly from Roblox, this is their best case scenario. User gives $100 to Roblox, they get 10,000 Robux. And that 10,000 Robux, is it 10,000 or yeah, 10,000. $100 goes to bookings. So at that point, right, they can't recognize the revenue. It goes to bookings until the user spends the Robux in the virtual store. They can't recognize it. Obviously, they do it a little bit different. They say like the average life of virtual currency, and then they just kind of recognize revenue over that schedule. They're not actually tracking like each individual user's in-game purchases to see if they can recognize the 30 cents or whatever. But just for the sake of this example, that's how we're going to look at it. And then let's say the user goes and spends at 10,000 Robux on an in-game experience. It sounds like most of them, from what I'm reading, are from third-party developers. So I think a majority of transactions are going through that way. So what happens is at that point, they recognize the revenue. $100 of revenue is recognized, but on the back end here, the developer is going to receive 70% of that Robux. So from there, that would be 7,000 of the Robux go to the developer, and that developer can cash out the Robux to USD at a rate of 0.0035 cents. So that would be at $24.50. And so what happens there is that 2450 is going to be kind of recorded. They record it as developer exchange fees, but you could think of it as a cost of good in a sense. That's what they're paying the developers to develop on their platform and basically create content for users to use. And then Roblox receives the other 30% of those Robux. And obviously with that 30%, I don't know what they actually do with it, but my guess is it's kind of like, when you buy back stock, they retire it, it becomes treasury stock, right? So this is like treasury Robux in a sense. They just retire it and it flows through at 100% margin to them. So if we look at that entire transaction, they received $100, they paid the developer $24.50, and that gives you a 75.5% margin. That's good, but something to compare that to, just to think about, is Niantic or the Epic Games. Those developers, their in-game currency flows through at 100% because there's not a third-party developer that they have to pay a fee to. And I mean, obviously, you could make the argument, right? Like Roblox is outsourcing the development of their in-game stuff, whereas like Epic and Niantic and those studios are producing the content in-house and paying salaries. That would be an interesting analysis. I haven't done it, but I'm guessing Roblox still has just as many developers just developing other features of the game that are free for users. So it's interesting, and it kind of hurts our margins because most virtual currencies are 100% margin. But then the thing that really hurts them, if we look at the second example here, if someone purchases Robux through the App Store, which is 49% of their sales, $100 gets paid to Apple or Google for 10,000 Robux. So we have $100 in bookings. Immediately, Google and Apple will take 30% of that transaction. So you have $30 recorded to COGS. The user will go spend that 10,000 Robux on in-game stuff, and at that point, we'll recognize $100 in revenue. The developer is going to take 70% of the Robux, right? So 7,000 of them, exchange it at that same exchange rate, so 2450. So, the developer still gets the same amount of Robux as they did in the first scenario. So the person really eating the dilution, the margin here from the Google Apple commission is going to be Roblox. So you have the 2450 developer exchange fee, right? And then Roblox receives the 30% of Robux with no associated costs there. So in this example, you have $100 revenue, $30 of cost to Apple, Google, and then 2450 to developer. That gets you a 45.5% margin. So 30% less, right? Just because it's purchased through a different channel, which is, that's a lot. That's a huge change, right? So if you compare that to the other ones, right, in this example, a Niantic or an Epic Games is at a 70% margin because they're just paying the 30%. Um, and Niantic and Epic thought it was such a big issue that they took it all the way to the Supreme Court, right, and created this giant fight against these tech giants to try to say you're screwing us, you can't do this. And then the last thing here, just to note, is like the blended margin now, right? So if we know 50% are direct, 50 are app store, and 49% are app store. So I just rounded to 50 to make it easy, right? You're going to have $100 revenue from a direct purchase, 100 from through the app store. You'll have the 2450 of developer fees in the direct purchase, and then you'll have the $30 of Apple, Google for that $100 revenue, and then the 2450 of developer fees for that one as well. Divide that by the $200, you get a 60.5% margin. So your margins are about 10% less than your competitors for these in-game currencies. So um, it's definitely something I think that's important to understand, and to understand as kind of the life of Roblox goes forward. Can they move people off the App Store and into their direct thing? And then can they lower the commission they're paying to developers? I think that's another big aspect of it is, instead of them receiving 50%, can you give them 60% or 50%? And then can you lower the exchange rate more, or is that going to completely turn away developers? So I think it's, there's room for optimization there and things to think about when creating a model. But this was just a quick overview of Roblox. This was a new company to me. I thought it was pretty interesting. So yeah, I hope you found this interesting and useful. I'm planning to do another little analysis here, maybe compare them to some competitors in the space and look at kind of daily active users, average life, things of that nature, and then also throw together a financial model as well and kind of try to value the company and see what we get at. So hope you found this useful, and stay tuned for a couple more videos in the coming weeks on Roblox. Thanks for tuning in.